they might be able to grow it better than you in certain times, and then you can learn from them as well. Because we just don't know everything, no matter how good we are. There's still someone that has some idea that's better than your idea.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. If this is your first time listening to the show, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And if you're a returning listener, leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear from you. We want to know what you love about the show, but also take any honest feedback to help it work harder for your investing goals. Now, we got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Dusten Hendrickson. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button today. Dusten Hendrickson develops and invests in wellness-designed multifamily real estate, existing value-add real estate, and he passively invests in other projects as an LP. Now, collectively, he owns and asset manages 859 multifamily units, approximately 25,000 square feet of commercial space, and he's passively invested in over 2,000 units as a limited partner. Let's welcome to the show, Dusten Hendrickson.
Thanks for having me, John.
Absolutely. Hey, Dusten, I went over your bio at a very high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
So we concentrate on wellness design, primarily modern workforce housing. And what I mean by that is basically it's A-class interiors. The units are A-class, but all the amenities are stripped out. And then they're in A-class to B-class locations. Very, very nice locations. They're usually in the suburbs or on the surrounding the town, not downtown, I guess. And we basically, every A-class building for the most part has tons and tons of amenities. So we figured, hey, we could make these cheaper if we stripped out all these amenities and you place them in areas that have the amenities surrounding. They have to go elsewhere for the amenities. They go to the gym and wherever they go. And then we can reduce the rent. And we find a lot of people actually don't like the amenities. So if you want an A-class, there's very little that doesn't have amenities, and a lot of people don't actually use the amenities. They're great for like luring people in, but I think when people live there for a long time and they don't use the amenities, they realize when they go to get their next place, they probably shouldn't pay for all that stuff. So we offer that, and it's not really in the marketplace.
And what size units are you typically building in that space?
We build small units. We build for density. So we build as small as 350 square foot studio, and usually our biggest unit is only about 1,250 square feet.
So 350 to about 1,250 or somewhere in that range, right?
Yeah, and 1,250, that's usually on more of a luxury building. If you look at our more dense buildings, we only go to about 1,000 square feet for a 3-bed.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
the way we design these, though, we design them with bigger windows, and so they seem like they're bigger than they are. And I found a lot of renters don't rent on per square foot. Most home buyers buy on per square foot pricing. A lot of renters just rent on 2-bedroom versus 2-bedroom and not necessarily per square foot. So we have a nicer, newer unit, a little bit smaller, but it feels about the same size and the quality is much higher. So then they go for our unit.
I think it's a great insight right there, right? You talked about just the renter. And a lot of times, when I first started investing, this was one of the things that was odd to me because people always talked about cost per square foot or rent per square foot. It's like I've been a renter for a long time, and at no point did I ever go into a place and say, "Oh, this is about 855 square feet. That last one was 775 square feet." Right? You either go
Right.
in and either the unit feels spacious or it feels tight. Either the bedroom can hold your king bed or it can't. Either the closets are big and spacious or they're not, right? So people are looking for, I think, very specific things when it comes to the space. You want to see how the flow is, right? How's the kitchen? Can I put my big couch there? Can I put my big screen TV there? And if you can check those boxes, I think most residents are comfortable if the size is there. I think when they get in there and they feel like, oh, I can't fit my king bed in here, or oh, I can't fit my couch in here, or I can't fit my entire, collection, that's where it starts to feel tight and where they may pay more attention to size. Just give a little more context. I mean, how did you come to that conclusion? Did you do a bunch of research there, or did you get this directly from residents?
I I did not. I got this all through experience. So I was during my career, my career was raised in Brookings, which is a college town, and so it's the most liberal town in the state, and you get a lot of creative liberty here, and people will allow you to do projects that maybe you wouldn't be allowed to do elsewhere. So we sold it to the banks as student housing and this different type of housing. We're going to try these smaller units. And so we just started building stuff and getting feedback. So I have been I've started from the ground up development. And so I've done everything. I do the design. I don't do all the design anymore, but at one point I did. I designed everything and then I would build it. So I'd see the inefficiencies as I built it. Then I would rent it to someone so they would show me the inefficiencies or what they didn't like about the place. And I constantly just change everything on the plan as it went to the feedback that I got from the renter. And then I was able to sell this to the bank because, it's student housing. And so the bank's like, okay, even though there's no comps to it. And we ended up getting the highest rates per square foot in our town of Brookings. So it's not even close. So, and it's because we just use big windows. The units feel nice. They feel urban. And people will justify paying a little bit more for a nicer unit, even if it's smaller. But we just collected all this feedback. And since I'm highly involved in the design all the way through, and I wore every single hat, I was able to just collect that feedback better and apply it to each plan going forward.
I love that, man. That's great insight. So basically your background, really from the design standpoint, you said wellness, designed, kind of A-class homes that are more affordable, 350 to maybe 1,250 square feet. That's kind of your focus as far as your core business. And then you do a lot of investing as well. I know you do some ground up developments. You also do some LP investing. Talk to us about kind of how you just approach real estate, because it sounds like you've got your hand in three different buckets.
I approach real estate as whatever's the most passive is what I want to do. So I want to always do the most passive. So location is by far the most important to me. I want to go where the growth is happening and where the growth is projected to happen for a while. Although that can turn on a dime. But if you get in very nice niche neighborhoods in these areas, you still are going to be fine. So I found if you go in the best niche neighborhoods and the best locations, you're going to be really, really fine. And that's what we just try to do. No matter what it is, we try to go for the best locations. And I've learned this many times to do most of the research initial research on the location, lots of research on the actual team's past performance. But yeah, location to me is most important. And then I find a good team. And when I find a good team, I eventually move most of my LP money that I'm investing to that team. Then I have money that I invest in my own projects. But I do believe in letting someone else use some of your money to build some wealth, and then it's passive. I can still create my own projects and invest in someone else at the same time. I can do both. I feel like people say, oh, I can only invest in my own projects. But if you take that money away and put it in another project, you'll get the money back in your own project somehow. It's what I've
Tell me more about that, because I think that's a challenge a lot of people have, right? It's like they're weighing, do I want to be an active investor or do I want to be a passive investor? And you have a lot of the knowledge and background from doing your own development. So I'm sure you can look at deals and operations and say, okay, hey, can I take this on, or do I want to take this on? Or if I've got, let's just say $200,000, I can invest this in XYZ project, or you can invest it passively and earn the returns there. Why do you choose to invest passively as opposed to just putting that money into your own deals?
Well, when you invest passively, you get game partners and other deals, and now you can start questioning them on why they're doing certain things. And if you have an issue with something, you can say, "Hey, what do you guys do here to solve this?" So you can improve your whole strategy by being on someone else's team. You can pick apart the best things of what you like about them. You can find out what you don't like about them. Then you can avoid that in the future when you pick other LP partners. But I just think there's so much to be gained from the knowledge of others, and So if you have that 200, well, put 100 in your deal and put 50 in two other people's deals and try to reach out and gain a little bit more perspective. I also think that you need to be on the mindset of you got to be able to let your money go and like recirculate it and let someone else try to grow it, because they might be able to grow it better than you in certain times, and then you can learn from them as well. Because we just don't know everything. No matter how good we are, there's still someone that has some idea that's better than your idea. Um,
I love
but
that. I
that's,
love
I
that.
mean, but yeah, that's my, just get around really, really good people. And you don't really know how good someone is until you actually invest with them.
Yeah. On that same note, you talked about, working with other people. If you have your money, maybe investing with other people, you're going to gain partners, you're going to gain perspective. And ultimately, that's going to make you a better investor as a whole. So lots of information and value there. Give me a tip. I mean, what's an insight you've learned or something you've gained from investing with some of these other groups?
Oh man, like so Rise 48, I bounce all kinds of things off Zach. So much stuff that I don't even know. Um, Real detailed information actually, so not high level, hard to really just say what it is. But if I ever have an issue, I reach out to multiple people and ask them how, multiple high level people, and ask them, hey, what do you guys do
Yeah.
in this situation? And depending on what market they're in, they've already seen it or they haven't. So if they haven't seen it yet, then they're not going to have, but they might have seen it 6 months ago. So then they're like, oh yeah, this happened to us. This is what we did.
Yeah, I think that's really great because what you're talking about is almost building a network of like-minded individuals, almost like this private mastermind of these experienced operators you could tap into to understand how they navigate different situations. And again, that's going to make you a better investor. So if you are looking to be active, there's another reason for you to actually be passive because you're going to gain the knowledge and expertise of all these other operators who are active as well. So again, it's not just about the money and making a certain return on your capital. When you have the ability to tap into a deep network, that can help you grow exponentially. You said something
Well,
else too about markets that I want to go back to, man. You said that if you invest in growing markets, and specifically in the niche parts and niche locations in these markets, then you're going to be set up for success. How do you define that, or what exactly are you looking for when you say a niche location?
it's hard to, I can't really, it's like an art form. Like you have to go to that
Okay.
neighborhood to know what it's like, and you have to like have your ear to the ground. Where's the buzz going? You know, like why are people going there? Why is it desirable? It needs to be desirable. So when you go there, you're like, oh, I want to be here. So if you know the city, you know where those locations are. Like, oh yeah, that's of course one of the best areas in the city. And oh yeah, that's one of the best areas. So if you can be in those areas or close to them, that's like in Sioux Falls, 69th Street's like one of the best roads to be on. So we try to get as close to that as possible. The thing runs east west along the south side, and that's like the nicest, newest road. And so that's where the best growth is at. So we want to be as close to that road as possible. Doesn't mean you have to be right on it, but like as if we are, it's better. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
Dustin,
I mean, yeah, yeah, you just have to know the area to know the niche places that are good. I would say you have to have local knowledge.
but Dustin, I think what's cool is that in our early episodes, we focused almost exclusively on finding the best places to invest. And one trend that became, clear to me is you really want to understand those submarkets. And when you talk about finding the best niche locations, it's really identifying where are the areas that are exciting that people want to live at. And it's not necessarily just about the numbers. I mean, the numbers are important, but as you mentioned, the numbers can change and they can grow and they can flip and flop. But at the end of the day, it's about demand. Where do people want to live? Where is that demand at? And every city has pockets that are desirable. And if you can figure out those desirable locations and then what makes them desirable, those things don't tend to change quite as fast. You can certainly build up an area like here in Cincinnati, OTR has become very desirable, right? Used to be a really crummy place to live 20, 30 years ago, but now is one of the hottest, sub markets in the city. On the other side of that, there are other little neighborhoods that have grown and continue to grow consistently. And one of the little tips and insights we always used to follow is if you can find kind of that trendy area, the area that's hot, that's very desirable, but then also look at the path of progress. What makes it desirable? What's close to it? And then what direction is that headed? That way you can maybe get ahead of that a little bit and kind of be a part of the next wave if you can see that growth. So that's always a nice little way to think about the market and the market selection whenever you are investing, wherever you're investing for that matter. So Dustin, you're in multiple markets, right? So you've got some stuff in Sioux Falls, you got some stuff out there in Arizona. Sounds like you're in a few other markets. Just talk to me about kind of your overall approach when you're looking at markets and looking at partners. Do you have a checklist, or is it more of a vibe for what you see?
Yeah, I don't have a checklist. It's more of a vibe. I like to visit the area, and I have a good meter to know if the area is desirable or not. And so I like to actually bicycle around through the different areas and drive around, check out all the different areas in town, have someone tour me around and show me around town. And then um obviously it needs to be a growing market. Like we're in Atlanta, that's a great market. Unfortunately, it's really hard to buy anything there right now. I mean, it's hard to buy anything anywhere, but that has slowed down, where we're buying, because all of a sudden there's almost no deals available. Phoenix, all of a sudden, is not a very good market. Um, Florida, like insurance is skyrocketing, same with Texas. And so through all this, going to all these markets, we found that some of them appreciate much faster, but then they also have these downtimes. And what we're finding in Sioux Falls is really good to develop. You can develop just through all these economic ups and downs, because Sioux Falls just doesn't really participate in the recessions as much. And then with acquisitions, you only have the choice of acquiring something. And right now, the buyers and the sellers are so far apart that nothing's really for sale unless it's distressed. So that's why we like to have the option to develop. And the more that we develop, the more we realize that we just have a better product almost all the time, because most people don't want to sell their best performing asset. They're going to sell you their worst performing asset, which is what we do as well. When we put something up for sale, it's usually because it's not performing as well as we think it could. And we've tried a lot of stuff, but there's always someone that thinks that they know more than the person before. So they're going to buy it and they're going to try it and they're going to probably do the same thing that we do with it. So that's just why the one reason why I like developments over acquisitions. But there's some certain times where the acquisition is insane amount of value, like in 09, 10, 11, 12, all the way up to whatever 2020. But now it seems like it's getting more Europeanized, or like Canada. Like when you buy stuff, there's like no return. You're just holding it for appreciation reasons. So that's one reason these developments, we can give the same return that we used to give with the syndication model. So
No, I love what you just said. I want to go back to the development approach because I think that many people have maybe been concerned or shied away from development. Development always feels very risky to either newer investors or those folks just who haven't done it yet. Talk to me about that, because obviously you've done development in your background, so I know that you're more comfortable with that. But for someone who's never done development, what are some of the risks, some of the concerns, but also some of the benefits that you would get from development that you won't get from buying an existing asset?
the main benefit is that you get a brand new asset that's going to be the easiest asset ever to rent out. So like you should not have any trouble renting that asset out, because people are going to come from all around because they want to live in the new stuff. Um, we're building at an 8 cap. We're building to an 8 cap, and the value is really a 4 cap, in my opinion. I mean, maybe not at this exact moment, but in a little, when everything settles down, I still think stuff's at a 4 to 5 cap in good areas. So that's a huge advantage. And then just the desirability of the location. Like you're building in brand new infrastructure, you're building brand new stuff, and people just want brand new all around them. So you can choose your location. So you can choose where you want to go, rather than acquisition is just what's on the market and who's willing to sell. Land is always for sale in the path of progress. So somehow you got to get in there and get it.
Yeah, I think it's really insightful there. When you think about the why, I mean, the upside is why. You there's more upside available in development because there is more risk, right? There's a little bit more
Yeah.
risk. You don't
I
have,
mean,
you're not making money day one, right? So there's a time frame to build out. Just talk to us about that, because obviously
well, if
there's the
you want to
entitlement
put it,
process and all that.
if you want to put it to a financial sense, if you want to actually compare finances, I think that acquisitions are more risky because your plan has to be perfectly dialed. In development, we have buffers. We have buffers. We can make so many mistakes through the way and still be profitable because we're creating maybe 30% value. Where acquisition, you're trying to either hopefully it has bad management, but you don't know. You just assume that it does. A lot of these value adds, you go in and you're like, we didn't run it any better than the people before us. Um, and we thought we could, and we, didn't quite have enough money to flip the whole property. And it just didn't work out as well. So I've just ran into that with acquisitions where you don't have as many tools to use. Like if you mess up a couple of things, or if you think you can do something better and you actually can't, then you're in the same boat as the person before you. Now you created zero value. Now you're waiting on appreciation to bail you out. We're not waiting on any of that stuff. There's going to be forced appreciation. It is very risky to develop if you've never done it and you're going to try and develop an apartment and you're stubborn and you're not going to take anyone's advice. If you're working with people that have built 100-unit apartments before, there's just not that much risk in that. As long as the location it continues to grow. Now, if you're developing and you've come into a market that just all of a sudden doesn't need any units, which I've never experienced. Every time I build something new, we take all the people from other places, and ours fills up, and other people have the issue where they don't have enough occupancy. So I don't think there's as much risk in development. I actually think there's much less risk. The returns are much, much better from what I've seen, especially if you just get out after stabilization. So if you develop it ground up, fully stabilize the rents, which could take anywhere from 1.5 to 3 years, or actually sometimes 5, but usually by year 3, your rents are pushed close to peak value, and then you're relying on more appreciation. So if you can do that, there's a lot of room to get out of that asset. We prefer just to refi and keep them, but when I talk with people, from what I've seen from all my experiences, it's easier for me to develop something. I can almost guarantee that the development's going to be a home run almost every time. And so there's less risk in it to me. You just have to have a good GC. These things are not that hard to build. You're talking about a 12-plex or a 24-plex or a 48-plex. It's not like you're building a skyscraper. So these garden style units, they're just not that hard. The time frame is low, so you can technically buy land, get it all developed in about the same time to do a heavy value add flip. We can build in Sioux Falls anyways. We can build and have within 9 months, we can have income flowing on our units. Wow. So then we build that one out, then we build the next one. So you have every month you're delivering roughly 12 to 24 units. So you start building up your income. And we can also do the same as these heavy value adds where we could over raise and then give you your distribution. But so a lot of these value adds, you think, oh, they're making money right off the bat. No, they're not. They got heavy value add. They're flipping it. They're using all the reserves to pay. So we can do the same with development. We can over raise, use the reserves to pay. We choose not to because it actually waters down your return. So that being said, we're not even that far behind in the cash flow as well for a heavy value add.
Man, I think that was a lot of great information. And I think that statement you made might be eyebrow raising for some people, that, the acquisitions is actually more risky than development in your eyes. But you laid out some great points, and you talked about, you said it twice, that for a lot of times when an owner is selling a property, they're usually selling an asset that is either underperforming or just one that they don't want to hold on to long term, right? And typically, if you're buying that and you're getting a good deal on it, well, you're going in with the value add approach. You've got this mindset that you can do X, Y, Z that current owner, that previous owner was not able to do. And you don't know that for sure. There may be reasons that previous owner failed that you may run into as well. And certainly, all of us have bought an asset, thought we could go do X, Y, Z, and realized X, Y, Z was much harder than we anticipated. Hopefully you're able to get through it. But I had that on a 28 unit. We came in and bought it and we thought we were going to do this and we kick out these tenants and do this. I mean, that worked until it didn't work, and then we ran into a bunch of other issues that popped up. And ultimately it was like, you know what? We've made our money at this point. Let's go ahead and sell this asset just because it was a headache. It just took a lot of my time. I spent more time on that asset than I did on
Right.
some of my larger assets. So that's where you start to recalibrate your portfolio. So again, it's mindful to understand that just because you find a deal where the numbers work out, sometimes maybe we're not clearly aware of how much work or effort it's going to take to turn that project around or to implement your business plan. And you got to validate that with new development. I think the biggest concern most people have is, dealing with the city, dealing with construction, dealing with the contractors. Maybe there are delays when it comes to the city, depending on where you're at. It sounds like you're in a market where you're able to get these things up and running in 9 months. So you're able to move relatively quickly to make this happen. What are some things that people need to be looking out for? I mean, we talked a little about, I guess, the city and regulations and things like that. But like if someone wants to jump into development, what are a couple of red flags or watch outs they have to be aware of first?
Um, the GC is your most important ally partner in the whole process because that's where all the risk lies. Now, if you get a bad GC and he says, "Oh, it's going to cost you 3 million," and then it costs you 4 million, that's going to be really tough to get that dog across the finish line. But I mean, you just have to really, really vet your GC. And then you also, in my opinion, your GC should come in as a partner in the deal and sign on the line and take ownership because now that's their most important project. So you get an up and coming GC that wants to do bigger stuff. If you're a syndicator that can syndicate 150 units and there's a developer that can build 30 units, well, that same developer can build 150 units. You just build 30 unit buildings at a time and he can already do what he's doing before. And he can easily go from 38 to 48. More than likely, it's a capital issue with this developer. You get someone that's really interested in real estate, someone that's well connected with the city, all that stuff, someone that meets their deadlines, all that stuff. And then you're like, hey, you want to, let's bring you in as a partner and owner on this thing. And instead of selling these all the time at the end, you can keep ownership. It's win-win for everybody. And then you'll find that you have more power over that guy, or not necessarily power, but he wants to work for you. So he wants you. Oh, you got another project for me. I see what I just made working for you, and I have to deal with 10 homeowners to make the same money, and I don't
Right.
like working with homeowners. And so let's move this thing forward. So you just got to get someone in that growth stage. It's probably not going to
Yeah.
work super established GC.
How are you finding the land? Because I know that's the other part, right? How are you finding the land? I'm
Oh,
assuming that you've got some ways to
same.
find it and value it and all that.
The exact same way you find an acquisition. You just beat the pavement. You kind of tell everyone that you're interested, and then you buy land and you show people that you're buying land. If you don't buy any land, no one's going to believe that you're going to want to buy any land. But land is not as competitive. What I've found, land is not as competitive as acquisitions. Like for some reason, since the data is in place for the acquisition, it's much easier for most people to see it. Since you have to create all your assumptions on development, a lot of people they can't fathom. They just can't deal with that uncertainty. Um, Forgot where I was there.
Well, I think on the land, I mean, to your point,
Oh
there's
yeah, the
land
land.
available, and then you said just telling people. I mean, are you getting that through brokers? Is that or like how are
Yeah,
you?
everybody.
Okay.
Brokers reach out. Mainly brokers. Yeah, once you just start getting known, mainly brokers, they'll just reach out to you before they even go to market. And
Yeah.
so, if we're one of maybe 10 developers in the area, we do our design though stands out. And some people actually, when we present the package and say this is what we're going to build, then they're like, oh wow, they actually care, which is weird to a lot of people. You think,
Yeah.
why would they care? It's just about dollars, but it's not. They would take our offer, not saying that our offer isn't as good, but our design really sways a lot of people to sell us the land.
I love it. Well, Dustin, I think a couple things stand out from our conversation. One, being open minded and having a creative approach is my high level takeaway. The creativity that you come. Maybe it's from being where you're at, but you talked about the buildings you're building bigger windows, smaller footprint, but more efficient, not having all the amenities, allowing you to create value for that resident. On the LP side, you're looking for operators that can add value to you, not just on the investment itself, which certainly you want to make good money, but you also want people that you can talk to and say, hey, I'm dealing with this, or have you ever seen this, or how do you handle that? You're basically building your own mastermind through these investment partners. So that money is coming back to you maybe threefold, not just on the money it's making, but the ideas and the intelligence you're gaining through these partnerships. And then thinking about new development, thinking about acquiring land and building up, because it's actually easier, in your opinion, and has less risk than the acquisition side. I think it forces people to think differently. Think differently about how you go out there and create value for yourself, for your investors, for your partners. How do you put your capital to work? So really great intuition, really great insights there that you just shared with us. For those that want to learn more about you and working with you, your website is mailboxmoneyre.com. You can check out Dusten there. We're going to go to a round of insights. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, Dusten, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
A failure. I had a partner one time that caused insane amount of stress in my life. And so he set me up to pick incredible partners. And so, yeah, he used to be like my enemy, but now I actually love him, oddly enough.
There you go. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Digital or mobile resource? Geez, I don't know. I don't really use. Okay, Marco Polo. I don't know if I've ever used Marco Polo before, but it's just video text. And so if you're closer partners, you'll create closer bonds if you use that versus just regular texting. But I'm not really a tech guy, so we have started using ringless voicemail though, and I would definitely recommend the ringless voicemail campaign to send updates to all your investors, because you can do a real personal update and shoot it to all their phones, and it gives them a touch. And a lot of people actually think that you called them because they can't answer. It just goes right to voicemail, gives them the message, and a lot of people call you back and say, hey, I missed your call or whatever, and you'd be like, oh no, just giving you an update, just wanted to check in. So it's a way to give someone a touch without asking them for anything, and it's a lot of touches in a very little time.
Love that. Ringless voicemail. We have to check that out. All right, give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is always the book that I recommend the most.
All right. What's a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
Reading the Bible in the morning and praying a lot.
There you go. All right. Give me your number one insight for new development.
Modern workforce housing, wellness design, modern workforce housing with no amenities. That's what we're doing. It's our most profitable project to date. The last one we just did, it's called the Reserve Flats in Brookings, and we just did a comparison. The NOI is 36% higher than projected and climbing at a rapid rate. The T12 shows that the building is worth like 8.8 million. Next month, when the old month falls off and our new month comes on, it'll jump to 9.6 million. Wow. In 1 month, because the NOI it'll be on a full 12-month cycle now. So we had 1 month of like 14K, and now we're getting to 50K. Wow. So that increases the value so much. So we'll be over our T12 as it extrapolates. Will be over. It'll go from like 6 to 10 million over a few months once it's stabilized.
That's amazing, man. Well, let's lighten the mood. You're in Brookings, right? You're still in Brookings?
Yeah.
All right. Give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Nick's Hamburgers in Brookings. It's like the most famous hamburger place in South Dakota. I mean, that's not saying much. It's not like we have a bunch of famous hamburger places, but if you come here, you got to get a slider.
All right. It sounds like a good one. We'll put that on the list. Listen, Dusten, great information. Really enjoyed our conversation today and sharing all those insights. Again, just for me, it's recognizing that when you invest passively with someone, you're not just putting your money to work, but you're building a relationship. So that's a very smart way to think about it. Even if you can do your own deals or want to do your own deals, it's probably wise to align yourself with other established operators who can help you see things maybe a little bit differently. And then thinking about development, there's opportunities in development, less competition in land, and you may be able to find really good GCs that can help you do that. So work on that if that's the path you want to go down, but always something to think about. Again, appreciate your time today. I want to thank you again for coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too, John.